Hi, it's Robert Young, and this is going to be video one of three. The theme of these videos are Treasury yields, Fed fund rates, and recessions. So this is going to be sort of a three-part, the very basics of which is just a general understanding of the correlation between the federal, Treasury rates and stock markets, and why if the Federal Reserve decides to raise interest rates on treasuries, it appears that the stock market unwinds and dips or falls dramatically, or why when the Federal Reserve decides they're going to cut interest rates for US Treasuries, why it appears that the market goes off. And this is not a this is an actual correlation. And so before I begin, I'm just going to tell you this. My legal department, and yes, I do have a legal department, contrary to what you may think. My legal department says I have to tell you that this is not investment advice. I'm not trying to give you a program or timing. This is all about understanding the correlation between why the news that the Federal Reserve is going to cut interest rates at the end of this month by 1/4 of a point it seems to be such a big deal. So that being said, it's just general information purposes. So there is a correlation, and here's where it comes from. Historically, the S&P 500 pays a dividend. When I talk about the market, I always talk about the S&P 500. That's the 500 largest companies in America. And the average dividend from 1871 to 1960 never fell below 3%. And then in the 70s to early 2000s, it averaged about 4%. And currently it's around 2 to 2.0%, so 2.20%. Now, why is that important? Well, because you've heard recently Powell's come out and said he's going to lower the Treasury yield rate by 1/4 of a point at the end of this month. Now, who cares? Right? If you went to your local bank and they paid you 1% in your money market and they raised it to 1.25%, that doesn't mean anything to you, right? That's not going to make any difference in your life. By the same token, if you had a loan that you were paying 5% on, it dropped down to 4.75, that would not significantly help you by reducing your payments dramatically. Nope. But 1/4 of a point to people who invest hundreds of millions of dollars at a time is a big difference. So here it is. If you're a country, a pension, a hedge fund, a large corporation, and you've got hundreds of millions of dollars to park somewhere and you want to do it safely, and you want to pretty much be assured that all your money is going to come back to you, plus you're really looking for the interest, then you would go to US Treasury bonds, right? You would put your money in a US Treasury bond, knowing you're going to get 100% of your money back, and then you're going to make it a yield. In this case, it's about 2.09% to current 10-year Treasury. So you're going to get 2%, and you'll be happy. All right. Well, currently though, the stock market yield is 2 to 2.20. So right in line with that. But Powell has said, hey, at the end of this month, I'm going to drop this. We're going to drop it down 1/4 of a point. And so now, this little birdie, this little greedy pterodactyl, is now flowing, running, picking at the higher yield. So if you got 100 million to invest, 1/4 of a point difference, whether it's 100% safe or the S&P 500, the 500 largest corporations in America, relatively safe, considered actually a conservative or moderate investment in some allocations. They look at this and they say, you know what? Why would I put my money? Well, I'd maybe make 1.75% or less, when I can put it over here and make 2.25%, plus maybe get some gain out of it. This little pterodactyl, this little fiend flows, it has no loyalty. Its loyalty is a feeding frenzy to the higher yield. This little falcon is looking for the fattest mouse that's out there. And if the fattest mouse is the S&P 500, it's in that field hunting. If it is the US Treasury bond, it's over in this farmer's field hunting. That is all this cares about. That is why in fourth quarter of last year, now there were other reasons why, but for the most part, last year, fourth quarter, the Federal Reserve said, hey, we're going to start raising rates next year in 2019 and 2020. And so what happened? Yes, the market fell, markets, the S&P 500, almost 20% as money rushed out to get ready for the higher yields. Remember, paying about the same, but if I can get 100% and make a higher yield, why would I stay in the market? So that's that. Now, Chairman's going to lower rates at the end of this month. What is money doing? Where do you think it's flowing? Is it going to Treasury yields, or is it going to the S&P 500? Yes, you got it. All right. So now you know the correlation. You know why the Federal Reserve threatening to cut rates affects the stock market. Why it does. It does so because this little falcon, this little pterodactyl of a hunter, only cares about one thing: making money safely in the form of dividend or form of yield. And it will go wherever the hunting offers the best, fattest mouse. In this case, the US Treasury bond is going on a diet, and so that leaves the S&P 500, the American stock market, S&P 500 index, as the fattest, prettiest, slowest moving mouse that's out there. And it is making, this little falcon is salivating right now. That's it. This is one of three. The next one will be on the yield curve as a recession indicator, and the third will be on general basket of recession indicators that we follow and why we follow them. That's it. If you have any questions, reach out. Otherwise, thank you very much. Hope you found this beneficial, and have a good day.